that is super intimidating. If you can surround yourself with people that are going to make you a better version of yourself, like you're doing the right thing, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. It's just intimidating to go up and just ask people questions about themselves or for help or things like that. Like that is super intimidating. People love being asked questions, like especially successful people. What I found is don't be scared to go up and just ask people for help or to ask people questions or to ask, be like, hey, like, you know, would you just tell me about like what made you successful? Just go up and ask people, right? There's no reason to stunt your own development as a human being just because you're scared of going up and having a conversation with somebody, right? You just gotta start.
So Carter, welcome to the program. Excited to have you on, and you run the gym I go to. You mentioned a little bit about your background in tech, and then switching over to the gym industry. And I think the gym industry, everyone like sees stuff online about the fitness industry and gyms, and I think they find that as a cool space, but not often do people actually jump in and do it. So what give us kind of your background for people listening.
Yeah, so I have a very interesting background. So, you know, kind of going to school or whatever, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Went through there, went in undeclared, didn't know what I wanted to do, had no idea. Said, you know what, I'm going to become a geologist. How does this sound, right? So I ended up with a degree in geology from school. And when I was looking for internships, as like a college junior does, I ended up getting connected with a construction tech company. I was looking to be a geotechnical engineer for them.
Okay.
And, you know, they were like, hey, you know, we don't have these positions available. You know, would you still be interested in coming on and being part of this team called program management?
Right.
Essentially what we do is we take all of the pieces from the different functions across the company. And for a little more context, this company, it was called Katera. It was a SoftBank funded company, really cool startup, true startup company.
Yeah.
The idea was that you were going to build like apartment buildings, like a Lego set. So you would manufacture all of the wall panels, all of these things in a factory. You would create a set of like instructions similar to a Lego set. You would deliver all the parts, all the panels to the construction site as needed. And then you give the construction workers their set of books, their set of parts, and they go, right?
Okay.
So I worked for that company kind of on this team of people that were the center function.
Yeah. How
are we getting all the teams to communicate with each other, things like that. Got hired full-time doing that. So I learned how to do construction schedules. I was creating these work packages. I was coordinating submittals. I was going out to sites and helping these site teams kind of work more efficiently together and all of these things like that as well.
Okay.
While also essentially creating like the structure of how the company was going to function.
Right.
So doing like kind of corporate design,
which
was like a really interesting thing, right? Again, I studied geology, but I kind of just got into this and I was just eager to learn and hungry and kind of kept going. That's kind of been the theme for everything that we've been doing so far. How I've kind of gotten to this point is I decide like, hey, this is something that I think I want to do. What do I need to do this, right? And I just have learned kind of continually through my life and throughout my career, hey, I'm just going to learn and learn and learn and learn and be able to do whatever I want to be able to do, right? And I was working in tech after that company. So that company, we came down to Phoenix for a business trip.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to put together our first set of instructions for our first project that we were going to start to deliver. We came down over like the weekend right before Memorial Day weekend, flew back up. I was living in Seattle at the time. And we show back up to work on Tuesday. We have a team meeting. Our boss goes, company shutting down at the end of the week. Thank you for your service. There won't be any severance. You'll get your instructions in the mail for your Cobra health insurance. So at that point, I'm 23, 24 years old. Yeah. This is my first job out of college. I'm living in Seattle. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do now, right? I have no, like, real experience. Like, I have this cool, like, couple years on my resume.
Yeah.
I have a geology degree. Like, you know, what am I going to do?
Yeah, sure.
Kind of ended up at a smart home tech company. I had a really good, a guy who's now a really, really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He took a chance on me. He said, you have this cool experience. You know, you seem like you work hard. You're willing to learn. You know, we'll take a chance on you, and we'll get you in here. See how that works out. Ended up being great. But I found that kind of corporate 9 to 5 was not something that I wanted to be doing. Right. So what do I want to do? What were the most impactful times in my life? Like, I kind of came to a point where it was like, what do I really want to do with my life?
Right.
If I'm sitting here in a year and I'm doing the same thing that I'm doing today, I'm going to be really, really upset with myself.
Yeah.
Right. So what do I need to do? What do I want to do? And to me, I get a lot out of, creating a sense of community or doing service or, having an impact on people's lives. I want to do something that is going to be impactful on people's lives, right?
Right.
So that's how I kind of got into the coaching thing. So in addition to owning the gym, I actually do coach hockey for Junior Coyotes and Pinnacle High School here out in Arizona.
Yeah.
So
Pinnacle High School has a hockey team?
Yeah. So Pinnacle, so they're actually a really good hockey team, defending state champs. Not a big deal.
There you go.
So really good hockey program. So lucky to be involved with them.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something where I'm like, I need to have an impact on the world, do things like that. And when I was going into the gym, you were kind of asking, like, how did you get into the gym space? How did you do these things, right? The gym has always been like a really, really good community for me, right? I've derived a lot of value out of the gym community.
Yeah.
And the places where I've lived and the places that I moved around, I go find a gym, you go find a gym, you go find a place to get your hair cut, you find your grocery store kind of when you move to a new place, right?
Right, yeah.
The gym was always the spot where I was immediately kind of finding my friends, right? And I feel that kind of where our world's at now and kind of the direction that we're at now is that we've lost a lot of those spaces and those areas where we can kind of have that sense of community.
Right.
And my goal for kind of taking over the gym and getting into that gym industry is to create that sense of community somewhere. I feel like we're missing that in all aspects of the world, kind of that social connection, places outside of work and places outside of our home where we can connect with other people and kind of learn stuff from other people, right? We have, all day I sit and talk to people at the gym, right? I talk to, hundreds of people a day. I'm learning something from all of these people. We have some really great people, and I'm hoping that my goal with the gym now is to create that sense of community and kind of go from there, right?
Yeah. No, I can tell that's the vibe you want to bring into the place. I mean, it's definitely just being there before you own the gym and now owning the gym, like the community type vibe is there. And I think that effort and impact is starting to be made. I think people are feeling that. So what got you into that? Because I agree. I think there's a lot of places and young people especially, I think they're losing that touch with other people, right? And even to a point, and you probably experienced this with the different avenues in business you got into, almost not connecting with mentorship, connecting with people above them who they can learn from. And I think the gym community kind of fosters that a lot, whether it's an age gap or anything like that, I don't know. But, if somebody's ahead of you in the gym, maybe has a little more experience or has lifted a little bit longer or has this movement down a little bit better, there's always something you can kind of gain and learn from that person. And usually they want to share it. So what kind of puts you on to needing that more?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it right on the head there. The gym is like, I think, a microcosm for, life in general, right? There's always a bigger fish in the gym. There's always somebody that's a little stronger. There's always somebody that's a little bigger. There's always somebody that's a little faster, right? And in life, that's the same way. There's always somebody that, whatever your goals are, there's somebody that's doing what you want to do or that's achieving something that you want to achieve or going a direction that you want to go, right? And I don't know where it kind of got lost, but to your point, that mentorship has kind of gotten lost somewhere.
Right.
And having that ability to connect with people who know more than you, like, I talk to my high school teachers still. I talk to my coaches that I had growing up. I talk to other guys that have gyms that are in the fitness space, that have run gyms before, that have run businesses before, right? Because I don't know everything, right? And once you kind of are able to zoom out and say, I don't have all the answers to everything. There are people that probably do. There's nothing wrong with going out and saying, hey, would you mind sitting down with me and talking to me about X, talking to me about this, right? And having that desire to learn and be hungry is, I feel, how I've gotten to where I'm at today, because I've always been continually trying to learn, right? Like I said, I don't have a degree or like the total life experience that's going to say like I'm fit to run a gym or I'm fit to do this, right?
Sure.
But I've surrounded myself with great people who help me out, who tell me kind of like, guide me along, kind of help me out with certain problems that I'm having, give me good advice on things, and then are also just kind of good examples, right? And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to those people and finding those people, because I don't understand how, nobody has all the answers themselves. Like you can ultimately kind of go and figure it out, but if you have access to people, go and ask those people, learn, right? And having that idea that you always can learn something from anybody that you meet is something that has been super impactful for me, right? And in that gym community thing, right? Whether it's training, whether it's, life advice, whatever it is, we got guys dropping good little nuggets of wisdom all day at the gym for us, whatever it is, right? Hey, I'm having a problem with, my, life thing or a girl thing or whatever it is, right? Sit down, talk with these guys about it, whoever it is, and just learn from other people, because people have great things to say, and we've lost that. And at the gym and in kind of what I want to create is that environment where it's like, hey, everybody's here to make everybody else better, right?
Right. Well, and I think there's so many of those community spaces that now have been taken over by online media or online spaces, right? So, somewhere where you normally had to go or it can be brought to you. Like the gym, I think, is still one of those pure locations where if you want to go get a workout, like you're not going to be able to just sit at home probably and do it yourself. Like you could, but more often than not, if you really want a good workout or you want to, use some good equipment, you're going to have to go somewhere. And so it lends itself to one of the few places that hasn't been replaced by convenience or whatever else, right? So I could see how that's kind of a good space to really reintroduce those places. And I think people are there for self-improvement and looking to better themselves already. Mm-hmm. So it kind of makes for a natural location for building that. Mm-hmm. So walk me through, because I used to coach a little bit. I coached basketball, women's basketball out of high school. It was a lot of fun. You're surrounded by kids who want to improve and get to the next level. But there's also a lot of responsibility, especially if you want to be a good coach. And I think people don't often realize that it takes work to be a good coach. So run me through your philosophy. I think every coach has a philosophy or a culture they're trying to bring into their program. And what's worked for you? What do you like about coaching? Just break that down for me.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing for coaching for me is so I coach hockey. I coach a little bit of everybody. The two main teams that I'm with this year are a 9U team and then the Pinnacle High School team.
What's a 9U team?
So it's all 9-year-olds. My whole team is 9-year-olds, which is awesome, right? Yeah. So the first kind of thing for coaching for me is I feel a little bit of an obligation to the game to kind of give back, right? Sure. The game of hockey taught me so much. Taught me how to be a better person, how to be like a better teammate, which applies to all facets of life. Taught me how to be a better, partner. Taught me how to be, so many things, right? So I feel some sense of duty to give back to the game in some way and, kind of pass those life lessons on to the next generation of hockey players that we have coming on, right, too. Also, it's a chance for me to stay involved in the game, right, in a way that I feel is productive in giving back to the community, right?
Right.
But as far as my philosophy goes is, I want to turn these 9-year-olds into better people at the end of the day, right? Yeah. And that's what we're trying to create is better human beings at the end of the day, right? You're going to be accountable. You're putting yourself below the needs of the team, right? And that's the thing that, at all age levels that we're trying to force, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you can be in service of people, you're going to have an ability to make the world a better place. Right. And that team environment is just a microcosm of, kind of what it means to actually be in service of people growing up. And coaching for me is a chance to actually, be in service of others and kind of do things like that, which is something that's very, very important to me. And that's why, like, even at the gym, we do these kind of fundraisers and things like that, kind of getting back to the community and doing things like that. Like, being in service is kind of my main driver for coaching. Yeah. And, as far as my philosophy goes, as long as we step on the ice and we're getting, 1% better every single day, the kids are doing their job, I'm doing my job. And it's also just fun. Like, I get to go hang out at the rink and, coach the coolest game in the world and be out on the ice for, you know, a few hours every single day with these kids and watch them have fun and, you know, things like that. So selfishly, like, it's super fun for me to be able to see, you know, how much fun these kids are having, getting out there, playing the game that I love so much, and kind of going from there, right?
Yeah. I noticed the other day, you guys did a fundraiser at the gym.
Yeah.
What, like this weekend?
Yeah, on Saturday we did.
Yeah. How was that? How'd that go?
Oh, it went great. So at the gym, we actually host, so we have a few classes. One of the classes that we host is actually, it's called Rocksteady Boxing. It's a Parkinson's rehabilitation boxing class.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what they go in, all the participants in that class have Parkinson's disease, and like various stages of the disease, kind of, you know, just diagnosed all the way to like pretty advanced. And they go in there and they work out, they box, they do all these things because that movement helps kind of slow the progression of the disease.
Right.
And so on Saturday, what we actually did was a fundraiser in conjunction with our local Rocksteady chapter, raising money for the Parkinson's Foundation of America.
Yeah.
So we did a vendor event. I think we had, you know, like 13, 14, 15 local businesses kind of out at the gym, setting up tables, selling their products, promoting their own businesses.
Yeah.
A lot of them are businesses owned by members of the gym as well.
Okay.
And then we were also raising money kind of along the way via the competitions and the raffles and things like that for that Parkinson's Foundation of America as well. Yeah. And we did really well. You know, I think we raised like $600 or $700 or something like that. So, you know, can't complain about that. We did our part. You know, kind of helping get them ready for their big event in November for Parkinson's Foundation. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always neat when people come together to support some sort of cause, and I think that obviously builds, like you said, that community around it. I think because they realize it's more than just a place to work out, right?
Exactly.
So obviously, going from the careers you were doing before, and what made you decide to get into geology? I know you're like, I didn't know what I wanted, but why geology? And then I'm also curious. I didn't ask this before, but why? What happened to that company? Did they sell off because it was a startup? Did they just didn't want to continue doing the work? What ended up happening? I didn't ask that.
Yeah. So geology. I was undeclared going in.
Yeah.
Going into school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I took the intro to geology class, and that professor kind of was like, "Hey, you should come do this. You know, do this. We get to go on all these cool trips. We get to go do all these cool things. Come join the geology department." You know, that seems pretty cool. I think I could get into that because we did go on cool trips. We got to go all over the place and go do some cool research stuff and things like that.
Where was the coolest place you went?
I got to go to Hawaii for 10 days.
Okay.
You know, on the school's dime, and I got to study Kilauea volcano, which is on the Big Island of Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we went out there, we studied the lava flows, things like that. Got to go through and kind of learn about all the volcanic activity that's happening out there, learn about the formation of the islands, things like that, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then the last few days of it, we got to take a little bit of a vacation and go kind of. We went to like a green sand beach. We got to swim, do all the cool things that you get to do in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how many people get to go do that in college just for free?
That's worth joining the geology department.
Exactly,
right?
You know, and then that made it worth it. You know, for sure. But the other thing was too, like, I grew up in Colorado. I've always been, you know, into camping. You know, I'm a big skier as well. Anything outside, and I was kind of just curious, like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if I knew kind of what was going on around me whenever I was outside. Because now, whenever I go on a hike or do whatever, I have an idea of what's going on around me, and it's kind of cool. And I just purely did it from a perspective of like, hey, I get to be outside. I get to learn about stuff that I already kind of like. I get to be outside and, you know, do things that I'm already liking, like that I already like to do.
Right.
And then just kind of have that understanding, and it seemed pretty cool at the time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that you can do with it career wise. So that was kind of my only reasoning, was that it seemed kind of cool at the time. Right. And it was awesome. I met some really cool people. I got to, like I said, I kind of had some cool experiences with it, and kind of went from there. And I would say the last kind of coolest thing that I got to do after was I had to get certified by the USGS, which is the United States Geological Survey. So it's the kind of the governing body of geology in the United States.
Yeah.
in order to fulfill my degree requirement, I actually lived in a tent in the middle of Montana for 2 months.
Okay.
Hand drawing geologic maps. So we would walk around these areas, and I would hand draw these maps with, like, we have this little compass tool that we use.
Yeah.
And walk around, take measurements, draw it on the map, and I was hand drawing all these maps. And I did that for a few months and got to live in a tent and do that, and that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because, and getting to be in Montana and do all those things was like, super unique again, kind of like how many people get to say they got to go do that, right?
Right.
So what a cool, really cool experience that I had there as well. Can't replace those kinds of things.
Right.
So as far as what happened with that company, so they told us, like I said, we showed up for our team meeting on Tuesday after a long weekend, basically said, company's done as of Friday. Good luck. And the company just ceased to exist. It didn't. Wow. They didn't sell it. It didn't go anywhere. It just went bankrupt. The company no longer existed anymore. There were a few things that had to happen after where they had to sell off some of the projects and things like that were going on that were in flight. But it just literally just shut down. And at that point, like I said, I was 23, 24 years old. I had no idea what I was going to do.
Right.
So lived on unemployment for a few months. Was trying to find a job. I was traveling all over the place because, at that time, things were still kind of locked down, especially in Seattle. So I was just kind of like bouncing from place to place, just trying to find a job, and kind of did the unemployment job hunt for a few months after that. But it was just one day they said, we're done and good luck. And then at that point, it was just kind of like, okay, well, what do we do? There were guys in my office that, as soon as they heard that was happening, they were getting on the phone, like calling people they knew, looking for jobs, things like that. I mean, that office environment that day was complete chaos. Yeah. Because you just told all of these people that in 4 days, you were no longer employed, and there was no severance, there was no benefits, there was no nothing. Jeez. Just pulled the rug right out from underneath everybody and said, good luck, right? Yeah. Which again, that was. Again, for somebody as young as I was at that point, that was my first job out of college. I didn't know I was not equipped for that, right? Or at least I didn't think so. So having the opportunity, and I do view it as that, right?
Yeah.
It was an opportunity to learn, okay, it's crunch time now, right? I don't have a job. I got to figure out what I'm going to do because, I got to make a living. I got to live. I don't want to, end up moving back in with my parents or doing whatever I'm doing. So that was really a chance for me to kind of grow up a little bit and be like, okay, hey, this is real life. Let's figure it out and kind of go from there. And I learned a lot about myself throughout those 3 months. Just what does that kind of adversity really mean? Yeah. And and again, it's just it's work. It's just a job, kind of things like that. But it was really a good opportunity and an experience for me to learn. Kind of okay, kind of pull the belt tight a little bit. Yeah. It's time to go and figure out what we're gonna do here. Mm-hmm. And it ended up being such a good experience. And out of that, I met a lot of really good people. I ended up down here in Arizona, and just what a crazy ride that was for sure, though.
Yeah. It's always good to. I mean, it's good and bad, right? It's never losing your job. I'm not arguing that that's ever a great experience. Yeah. But it is. It's good for people, I think, sometimes to have moments in their life where they have to ask themselves the real questions of what do I want now, what's happening next, and sometimes it is those type of events that cause you to sit back and go, okay, this has been a change. I need to think about what do I really want here, what do I really want to achieve and do, and what comes next. What led to you moving from? So you were in Seattle at this point, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So Colorado, then St. Louis.
Yep.
Then Seattle.
Yep.
And did you move to Seattle because of the job?
Yeah, I moved up there because of the job. Okay, and cool. Again, it was just kind of I get to go work for this cool startup. It was a true startup. We were doing whatever we wanted to do. Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, moved up there for the startup just because I was like, hey, this would be a pretty cool place to go live. I'll go do that. Might as well. And Seattle was great. And then ultimately ended up down here. So I got a job at a smart home tech company after that company went away. With that guy who kind of gave me a chance, who's now one of my great friends, and I would say a mentor of mine as well. Gave me that chance, and I've been here ever since. And kind of, in contrast to that other decision where that decision was made for me that I needed to go find a new job. Kind of, I got to a certain point working for the smart home tech company, and it was a great job. I got to do a lot of cool things. We had some impact. It's a publicly traded company. I got to be a part of a company that went public. Things like that, like very cool experiences that I had there, right? But ultimately, I kind of, like I mentioned before, I was just sitting there one day and I said, if I'm still doing this in a year or two, what am I going to feel about myself? How am I going to feel about my life? Is this really where I want to be, right? And at that point, that for me was that kind of spark change of, okay, I need to find something else that I want to do.
Yeah.
And at first it was, okay, me and a buddy of mine are going to go try to open a gym, right?
Yeah.
Let's try to find a gym and start from scratch and go do this, right? And, trying to open one up in Scottsdale, like we couldn't find something that was going to work, that was going to make sense financially for opening a gym. So at that point I said, okay, hang in here. What else can I do? So I got into coaching. And at that point, I also was just like, okay, what are other things that I could do that are going to help me help me coach, help me be in service of other people? Because at that point, I decided I need to do something that's impactful on the world, and is actually like implementing some sort of change, and I feel like I'm making people's lives better. Right. So I said, you know what? How about I become a teacher? Okay. So I enrolled. I was in a master's program at Grand Canyon University, becoming a teacher. I think I got halfway or 2/3 of the way through the program, and then Fitness 1440 happened and kind of things like that. So I changed the kind of the priority of that. But it ultimately came down to me just reflecting on what do I want to, ultimately kind of what do I want to do for the world, right? Because right now, like my job that I'm doing, it's perfectly cool. I get paid pretty good. I'm good at it, but I'm not getting anything out of this, and I don't think anybody else is really getting anything out of this, right? As much as, smart home tech is cool and things like that. But I'm not, there's nothing that I'm creating and making the world a better place for, right? So at that point, it was, okay, if I can, and kind of my mindset towards the gym, how I was viewing the gym originally versus kind of after that, how I viewed it is different. Because once we kind of bought Fitness 1440, so my brother and I own it together. Yeah. Once we kind of got into that, my mindset on kind of how I wanted to take the gym was different as well. And that's kind of where that community focus aspect came. Where I was like, okay, I have a chance here to, it's not just running a gym, things like that. We're missing that space for people to connect, to come together, to socialize, things like that. Because you mentioned it before, we can socialize, and we have the instant gratification. I can hit up anybody whenever I want and talk to them about things like that. But there's something to be said about that kind of face-to-face connection and that face-to-face conversation and kind of being around like-minded people. And you mentioned that before. When you go into, and especially in Fitness 1440, we have such a great group of people in there. Everybody's in there to do work, and everybody in there is trying to get better and better themselves. It's a really, really unique community of people.
It's your puppy that's making the difference, I'm telling you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, little Winnie is boosting the mood in there for sure. But everybody is in there, working their butts off. Yeah. And I jumping in there, first off, everybody welcomed me with open arms and was super, super excited for me to come on board, which made that transition that much easier. Yeah. But yeah, the goal of the gym for me kind of evolved when I first decided that I wanted to open a gym to kind of when I was actually taking over the gym. Right? Yeah. Because it's like, hey, if I have a chance to leave the world a better place than I found it, to make an impact on one person's life or 100 people's lives or whatever it is, I'm making the world a better place. I'm having some sort of impact. Right. And that's ultimately kind of what my goal for Fitness 1440 was to kind of be in service of the membership base, right? Like it's somewhere where people come every single day. It can be a sacred thing. It's part of everybody's daily routine, right? So let's make this place as productive of an environment as we possibly can for everybody, right?
Yeah. No, I think, it's funny how it's interesting that you talk about that, because I think a lot of people, and probably a lot more young people, I don't know about old people because I'm not there yet, but younger people, I think, look online and they look at how many followers you have on social media, and they think that's the type of impact they need to have. You have to impact thousands or millions of people. But if you think back to not even too long ago, 50, 60, 100 years ago, communities were a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people, maybe a little bit larger than that. And making an impact was the people around you. That was your view of like, can I impact this person in my community? Can I help this person out here? And a lot of times I think we skew our impact to being, okay, I gotta influence, 1 million people online. And it's like, you don't realize how many people is like 100 people physically in front of you, right? Like, what no one ever realizes is that, if you were to put 100 people in this room, that, one, they wouldn't fit in this room, but that's a lot of people you're influencing and impacting. And so, yeah, I don't think people realize that, your impact can be in a lot of ways. And usually the one-on-one and sitting down face-to-face and providing a space for people is more impactful, if not, equally impactful as some of these other mediums of, influence, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's just, there's something to be said about being around a group of like-minded people.
Yeah.
Right? Or people that are trying to achieve the same thing that you're trying to achieve.
Totally.
Right? And it all circles back to kind of what we said. Like, there's always going to be people that are a little bit better than you at whatever you're trying to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can surround yourself with people like that, I think you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, if you can put people who are even ahead of you or at the same level, it's going to inspire you to keep moving forward. Walk me through, because I think people, like I said at the beginning, people think gym culture is cool, the fitness community is cool, and I think people have aspirations of owning a gym or owning a physical space like that. Not many people actually achieve it or do it. And a lot of people see the outcome of it, but not the background. Even I, walking through the gym, I use the gym, but I don't know what the day-to-day operations are like. I don't know the ups and the downs. And so as a gym owner, within this last year of owning the gym, what's it like? What have you learned so far? What did you expect? What have you experienced that you didn't expect? And what's it like being the owner of the gym?
Yeah, first off, it's the coolest job ever.
Right.
Like, I get to go to work and hang out at a gym all day. So, I just have, at the end of the day, like, I can just remind myself, no matter what happens, like, I own this gym. I get to show up to a gym to work.
Right.
Like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, yeah, I would say day to day, like, a lot of my day to day is just kind of being around the gym, talking to people, kind of addressing like any of those kind of little issues that come up. Right.
Totally.
And then behind the scenes too, like, there's things that I'm always planning. Right. Okay. Like, what's our next event going to be? Kind of what's our next marketing thing going to be? What are we looking forward to, towards the end of the year? Are we going to add anything to the gym? Like, things like that. So I'm always just kind of thinking ahead about, hey, here's what's next. Like, what's the progression of things that we're going to kind of keep going forward to evolve the business and keep it moving forward, mm-hmm. right? And that's events, that's equipment, that's arrangement of the gym, that's anything like that, right? And then there's also just kind of like, I have to maintain the equipment, right? So, sure. I'm in there, I'm maintaining a lot of the equipment. I do a lot of that myself. If there's something that I can't do, I call things like that, facility management. Things like that. But, I think the one thing that I did not expect was just like, the level of connection that I've had with everybody. Because a lot of my job is just like connecting with people and just like sure. being visible and, making that gym feel like a really productive space, right?
Totally.
And everything that I'm doing kind of behind the scenes and things like that is in order to like facilitate that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also just the day-to-day like people management things that I have to do, right? I do have employees, but then I also have a set of members that I have to deal with, right? And everybody kind of has their own little particular things that they care about. Everybody has their own little issues that they have. Everybody has like, there's good things that people like, there's bad things that people are telling me about, kind of whatever it is. But it's just everything that I'm doing is in service of creating, smaller kind of niche communities going forward in the gym that are going to create that kind of like larger community feel.
Yeah.
Right. But day to day, like, you wouldn't, the amount of stuff that goes into actually running a gym is crazy. Everything from like toilet paper and paper towels and soap to all the equipment maintenance and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just continually looking to improve the day-to-day experience of the gym for the members is kind of everything that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's all those little things, right? The things no one thinks about, like, I guess I have to be the one to go unclog the toilet, or I have to be the one to refill the paper in the mm-hmm. dispenser, right? Mm-hmm. So that's and you're very hands-on as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's another thing. Sometimes owners, hand the keys off to a manager or to somebody else, and sometimes you see a decline in the productivity of the actual gym, because if that person doesn't care about it nearly as much as the owner does, it's not going to be the same experience. How did you get into it with your brother? Does your brother live locally? Does he live in a different state?
Yeah, so my brother, so we got into it together. So yeah, I think there was a couple things that were a little bit different about like taking over an existing gym versus kind of starting one from new. So a lot of the things that we didn't have to find members, we didn't have to do that. So a lot of when we jumped in was just kind of keeping the gym stable, and then improving upon the existing product, because the gym it's a great gym, right? So all we needed to do at that point was kind of come in and just like make it, like a little more special, right? Because the layout of the gym's great, the equipment's great, but it was missing kind of, like the good energy in there, right? But no, my brother, so he lives in Salt Lake. So like you said, I kind of run a lot of the day-to-day operations of kind of what's going on. Anything day-to-day that's happening, I'm in charge of. And then my brother is helping me behind the scenes with a lot of the financial things like that. He's super strong in that area. So having that ability to very clearly, so he's doing a lot of the financial things, back of house, like accounting, a lot of things like that. But, at the end of the day, like the opportunity to get to work with my brother is the coolest thing in the whole world, right? We're super close. He's 2 years younger than I am, and like I mentioned before, so he's up in Salt Lake doing a lot of that stuff. He pops down every once in a while to come to the gym and kind of see how things are going too. But it's been a really cool opportunity to get to work with him and kind of hear his thoughts on everything like that. And he is my younger brother, so it is kind of cool to kind of see him kind of grow up a little bit and evolve into just this really, really good. He's an awesome businessman, right? He's got a really good mind for this kind of stuff. And just to see kind of how mature he is and how much he's grown in his acumen is really, really cool to see as well. So super special opportunity to kind of do family run business. I love it. And, at the end of the day, like that's my best friend right there. So how many people can say they get to run a business with their best friend? And it's the coolest thing. It's really the coolest thing. That's my favorite part about this whole thing, is getting to do it with him.
Right. Yeah, it's always I don't think that's an opportunity many people get. They usually, like you said, they work that 9-to-5 job. They work with people, some they may like and some they probably don't like, and maybe one or two of them they actually enjoy being around, but not many get to go chase their dream and start something and be around, their friends and their family and promote it. What's in talking to you and just going over kind of the different experiences you've had, what's been your greatest source of inspiration? And it sounds like you've had lots of mentors who maybe you lean on and gain, that inspiration from. But what would you say your greatest source of inspiration has been in kind of making those decisions in what the next chapter will be?
Yeah, like I will say, like, I was kind of hitting on it a little bit. My younger brother is, like I said, we're super, super close. And, getting to see, he's a really smart guy. He's got a really good mind for kind of some of these things. Like seeing him, because he's an entrepreneur as well. He has his own kind of stuff that he does on his own. And he did it before I even was kind of off and starting the gym, and he was doing that. So seeing him go off and be entrepreneurial like that and really have a mind for that inspired me to be able to say, like, hey, well, if he's doing it, there's no reason that I can't go do it. Right. And, seeing somebody who, I watched him grow up. We grew up together, kind of seeing kind of where he was at and where he is now, and then watching him go and take those steps to, do what he wants to go do and run his own businesses and generate all those things and go out on his own and go do all that. That was really, for me, the moment where I was like, hey, I got to go do this too. Right. And like you mentioned before, like some of these mentors that I've been really lucky to meet people that are very entrepreneurial, right? Because and I would say I'm not like that to me at first was something that was super daunting, like the idea of like going and starting a business and doing all of those things. Like it's super intimidating, right? Because like where do you start? What do you do, right? And I was lucky enough to have people around me that were entrepreneurial and have done those things, and kind of, talking to them and, playing off of their experience. And specifically like the guy at Smart Rent, which was the smart home tech company that I worked for. One of my coworkers on my team, and the guy that kind of gave me that chance, who's one of my buddies and I would say a mentor of mine, watching them and talking to them about how, because they've gone and they've started businesses and they failed and they've done these things, and talking to them and just seeing like kind of their attitude towards it and how they lit up when they got to talk about what they went and did versus just kind of like our day-to-day job. That to me was like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, right? I want to go get that spark that I see from my brother, that I see from my buddies that I have at this company, right? And it was just kind of one of those things where it was a little bit of FOMO, honestly. Yeah. I mean, it totally was. I'll call it exactly what it was. It was like, well, I want to go do that. Like, I want to be in charge of kind of what's going on, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, it was just it was such an intimidating thing to think about, because like, where do you really start? And I was having a conversation about this with somebody actually at the gym the other day, because he wanted to go and he wants to go start his own business as well. And he's like, man, I don't know where to start. This seems like there's so much to do, like there's so much to figure out. And I was kind of thinking about it, and it's just, you just got to start by doing one thing, right? And once I kind of realized, it's like, you're never going to be able to you're not going to figure it out all in one day at one time and know everything that's ever going to go into starting your own business or taking over a business or whatever it is. Like, there's so much unknown, but what you do know is that you got to do one thing first, right? And just take the first step to doing that one thing, whether it's reaching out to, because Fitness 1440, they listed it, whether it was reaching out to the listing agent to just inquire about it. Like, you've done the first step. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to go put together a business plan. Like, that's a first step. And that was, to me, what I gathered from, my brother and these other people that I've talked to that have done this, is just, you just got to start. Right. Because it's easy, and I'm guilty of this. If I don't have it all figured out at one time, maybe I won't do anything. Sure. So it's just paralysis by analysis type of situation, right? But just start and do something that's going to move you forward. And it can be a little thing, it can be a big thing, and maybe it'll be something that you don't even know, right? Because you don't have all the information yet. Right. So just kind of taking that leap into the unknown and just kind of rolling with the punches and going from there was just kind of what I learned most from my brother and these people around me, was just, you just got to start, and you're not going to know everything. So you're just going to kind of have to roll with what comes up and kind of go from there. But as long as you're moving forward and you kind of have a clear vision about what your goal is, like, you're going to be okay. Yeah. Right. And that piece about surrounding yourself with people was super, super crucial for me as well. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of what I'm doing if I didn't have the ability. Like, if I couldn't go ask people questions about stuff, I'd be in a different situation for sure. Right. For sure. Yeah, it's
obviously I think people are scared to take risk, right? Because it's just as people, we're inclined to be more in our comfort zone and do what we've always known. But yeah, the risk factor, if you're someone who thinks you have to have all the pieces together and all the answers to every question before you do something, you probably won't ever get started on what you're wanting to accomplish, because nobody who started anything knew everything they were doing. And I think that's the flaw that a lot of people miss, or the thing that they miss when they're trying to do something, because they expect to, like, they look at someone ahead of them and they think, oh, look, they've got it all figured out. Mm-hmm. That's what I have to be. Mm-hmm. And they're not looking at that person's past self and realizing, oh, they were 10 years ago, they were that, and that's how they got there, not they were that person that I see now and then backtrack.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even you look at somebody, like we talk about, like, surrounding yourself with people that are, more accomplished or whatever. Yeah. Those people don't have all the answers to everything, right? They're still asking questions about stuff. They're still, like, nobody knows everything, right? And kind of once you get into that mindset of, like, okay, well, I don't know this. Somebody probably does, but I know something that other people don't. Mm-hmm. You become kind of a little less, like, scared, I guess, right? But it's reasonable to be scared, because, like, you look at it and it's a very intimidating thing. Yeah. But I'm still scared. I get nervous about, like, everything that's going on at the gym, like, every day. Like, it's a big thing that we're doing. Like, it's my livelihood, right? Yeah. How could I not be a little scared about, like, things that are going on, or, oh, we had a lower month, like, of revenue, or we had this. And it's hard not to get worried or scared or whatever about it. There's still a lot of unknowns, right? But being able to just say, like, take action and just dive headfirst into those unknowns, to me, is the trait that, I've seen from successful people is they're just like, it seems like they're not scared of anything.
Yeah.
They just go, right?
Yeah.
And that is the one trait that I see amongst like successful people that I try to emulate all the time. It's just like, hey, like you just gotta decide, you gotta go, and then you're gonna just have to, live with consequences of whatever that decision is, whether it's a good consequence or a bad consequence, because like it's gonna, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, just rolling with the punches, figuring it out, because you're gonna mess up. Like I've made mistakes at the gym, right? Okay, no big deal, right? Just go fix it. Right? You don't need to sit there dwell on all these little things that, went wrong when there's still so many things that you have to go do right.
Yeah.
Right? And kind of learning to roll with those punches and things like that has been kind of the biggest growth area for me, is like, hey, I can't sit here and dwell on, we had a bad day or we had a bad month or, oh, I should have done this or I should have done whatever it is, right?
Right.
I could sit here and beat myself up all day about things that I've done, mistakes, whatever. But at the end of the day, you just got to learn from them, not make the same mistake twice, and you're gonna probably be okay.
Right.
As long as you're learning, though, that's the key thing. And the again, these people that I like, anybody, not even people that I know, anybody that is like that you view as a successful person, that's like the main thing. Like for me, is that they don't let those mistakes or their mess ups or whatever it is just like completely derail everything else that's going on in their life. Like they don't let a work mistake derail the rest of their work life. They don't let their work mistake derail their personal life. It's just a mistake. Like everybody messes up. We're all human beings, and we're going to figure it out, and if you have the utmost faith in yourself and the utmost confidence in yourself that you can get through any situation, like it's probably going to work out for you. Right. And and that's a scary thing, though. Like I will fully acknowledge that is a scary thing. And but to me, just emulating that trait has been kind of the biggest eye-opening thing for me throughout this kind of journey so far.
Yeah. I think it was Jeff Bezos. I read this quote he said one time. It was about be stubborn on the goal, but be flexible on the details. And I always thought that was like a really good way, because I think he was the one that kind of talks a lot about failing fast and failing hard, and then moving on to the next thing if it didn't work out. And I owned a online education program at one point, and it was funny. I did for 4 years or so, and we brought on some people later on after it started to take off, and it was funny because I brought on, there was this one lady who was part of the team, and she was kind of like my co-lead, I guess the best way to put it. But I had been there a little bit longer, and everyone in the program, we'd have months where it slowed down a little bit, and everyone would freak out and go, "Oh my gosh, like why aren't there so many people?" And over time, I realized, oh, it's December, so everyone's like on holiday. Like we just have less people because it's December, or there was always something that correlated with it. But I only found that out because I had that same feeling, first couple years, like why is it not working this month? And you realize over time, like, okay, there's just some things, but I had to experience it, right? And everyone who came in after me, had that same fear of like, why is it not working? Did I fail at my job? And then it was like, no, it's just how the pattern works. But you only know that by experiencing it and failing and doing and going, and some of those things just take time. But if you never get into it, you'll never really know it, right? Mm-hmm. So in the gym industry, they talk a lot about churn. Right. And granted, I've only gone to Fitness 44. I've been there for a long time, and it's a great gym. I have no reason to want to ever leave. Right. What's that like? Because some gyms, I would assume maybe like an EOS, they probably have a lot of churn. Does Fitness 1440 have that problem? Is it more consistent? And how do you deal with that? Because you hear that a lot in the gym industry. There's always like a percentage of churn where people are canceling, and but then you have some more come in, and so you got to always foster that new membership coming in. Has that been something you've noticed, or?
Yeah, a little bit. So like to your point, yeah, like a gym like EOS is going to have like a ton of churn, right? I would say that relative to like something like EOS, our gym is a little bit of a different product,
right?
But yeah, relative to EOS, like the churn thing was like we did have a little bit of a turnover issue, in my opinion, right? Yeah. I wouldn't say that it was like a reason for alarm or anything like that. But I was coming in, I was saying, hey, we do pretty well at coming in and consistently selling memberships.
Right.
So once we get people into the gym, and if we're marketing it properly, like, we're going to do okay getting people into the gym. But what I was noticing is that, you know, we weren't extending kind of that lifetime value of that member very long among specific, you know, demographics. And I take a look at that and I say, okay, well, what is it? And, you know, my first impression was, well, you come to the gym and it's just the gym, and there's nothing like there was nothing else like being offered. Right. And I feel like people that are our age are looking for something that, like, a little bit of a higher perceived value out of the gym, right? And that was kind of the first thing that I identified is like, okay, how can I increase this perceived value that we're getting for our members in order to increase that retention? Because, like, at the price point that we're at and where we're relative to, like, EOS or Planet Fitness or whatever it is, right, we're not going to compete with them on a price point.
Sure.
But we can compete with them by offering things that they don't have. And to me, I started by saying, like, let's create those niche communities. Let's do events. Let's have competitions. Let's do fundraising things. Let's make this gym, now that we're not part of a franchise anymore, now that we're a locally owned private gym, like, we can do what we want and we can solidify ourselves as a pillar in the community, right? And increasing that perceived value is going to, and it has already dropped our attrition a little bit, like on a month-to-month, you know, year-over-year basis, and has started to increase kind of that lifetime value of the member, right? And a lot of the trends from the gyms today, like, you can even kind of see that perceived value is the biggest thing, right? You can even see, like, EOS, we'll just take them because, you know, they're all over the place around here, right? Like, you can take a look at what they're doing with their new clubs, okay? They've added in nicer, kind of more specialized equipment. Okay. Right. Because now everybody online sees, you know, the influencers using, you know, this specialized piece of equipment, this kind of thing, the more bodybuilding style, because bodybuilding training is blowing up enormously. That's how I would say that, you know, most of the content that I see online, things like that, are around like hypertrophy bodybuilding type training and kind of that style. Right. So look at what EOS is doing. So they're adding in some of that nicer equipment. They've added in the kind of the influencer rooms. I don't know if you've seen that. So what they've done is they've kind of taken what the gym kind of aesthetic trends are, which is the neon signs, the dark lighting, the dark walls, the real aggressive down lighting, and added that into their gyms to basically say, hey, creators, you want to be an influencer, you want to be a fitness influencer. Everybody wants to be a fitness influencer, right? Come in here and film. This room is for you to create your content. It's for that. We want that. They're promoting that. Right? That's adding some sense of perceived value to the people that are our age. To say, hey, you know, this is a space where I can go and do this, right? And just adding in those little things. Even like Mountainside, for example, they've added it. They're starting to add in like the cold plunges. They're starting to add in all of these things that are increasing that perceived value from the gym, right? And you know, I'm not going to sit here and act like we can compete, you know, on a, you know, equipment and facility to facility basis with some of the bigger gym chains. But what we can do is increase our perceived value by doing community events, by doing competitions, by doing clinics and seminars, by, you know, creating some more niche classes that we can do to kind of create that community sense, right? And ultimately, like, my theory is that if we can increase like that kind of community feeling, that's going to increase that perceived value. And we've also started doing things at the gym too. Like, we have like the DEXA scan trucks come. We got the vendors come. We have like little pop-ups. We do stuff like that. And that's in order to kind of increase that perceived value. Just because, like, you know, if I'm going to come in and I'm going to pay, you know, X amount for my gym membership, like, I expect to have other things in addition to it other than just the gym. And that's a trend across the board, even for like Planet Fitness is even starting to upgrade their gyms and their membership types. Like, Planet Fitness is even going away from the $9.99 a month gym model to add. They have like the black clubs or whatever it's called now. Like, all of these clubs and all these gym chains are adding in a little bit more of like a luxury type, you know, atmosphere into the gyms in order to increase that perceived value for their younger members, right? And if we can, my main goal kind of coming into Fitness 1440 was to kind of knock that attrition rate down and to increase that. So by doing the events and things like that, that's kind of my theory going forward from there. But it is an interesting space just to see kind of like the rise of social media has definitely impacted a lot of, I will say, kind of what people expect from a gym.
Totally.
Right? There are certain things now that are non-negotiables to be able to have in a gym, right? Like you got to have like heavy dumbbells now. You got to have specific types of equipment now, like things like that are just non-negotiables just because of the trends that are kind of going on social media, right? It definitely drives it, and it's kind of interesting to see how some of these like more value based brands are also starting to kind of evolve that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there definitely is, especially off of initial buy-in. That's what people are looking for. They're like, okay, what membership, which gym do I get the most for my like biggest bang for my buck? But I will say the one thing that's interesting, I've not ever heard like any other gym do this, like you're doing it, is I think a lot of gyms go, okay, we need to provide, a couple cold plunges, a sauna, we need to have a pool, we need to do this, we need to do right. They keep on trying to add more to the membership, more for the end user or the member to be able to utilize, which is interesting because in some cases, you might get the member who wants to use everything, like my mother. That would be a prime example of that. But for me, right, she's not going to like that I said that, but whatever. She doesn't watch the episodes. But then for me, like, I'm kind of like, I'm going to go use the things I'm used to. And yeah, maybe there's a couple features I'll add. But I think the thing that people really, and I think you're hitting at this, is people want to have a connection, and they want to, like if I feel a sense of loyalty to the gym, right, and if I've made a friend there, or I have a community of people that I know there, I'm way more likely to go for that and go hit a lift. And all I know, I'm going to see Bob at the gym today, and Frank, and I'm going to see Betty. I don't know why they have 80-year-olds names, but I'm going to see all my friends there, and then like I'm way more loyal to that location than maybe, oh, well, this place has a nice cold plunge, like which one's going to hold my loyalty? Yeah. Probably the people. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a way more compelling pitch, I guess is the best way to put it, to get people to stay. So that's interesting because I've even people I've had on the podcast who are in the gym space, like they always are talking about, oh, we're upgrading this, we're changing that, we're trying to boost, the membership value through things. Yeah. And I'm not sure. I think it works to a certain extent, but I think the community is what really pulls.
I agree, because, there's definitely something to be said, about filling the gym up with, the nicest equipment, creating the nicest environment, those physical aspects of it. That is extremely, extremely important. Yeah. If you have crappy equipment and your gym's dirty and it smells bad and whatever, you will never get members, right? Yeah. But, again, you kind of, I think you said it perfectly is, yeah, you could just fill up the gym with a bunch of equipment and things like that, but we have nice equipment in the gym already. Right. So, okay, nobody's complaining about it really. I did a whole survey on the equipment and everything before about, hey, would you replace this? Would you replace this? And everybody was like, no, what we have is totally fine. There were a couple things I added a couple little pieces in that people wanted and things like that I wanted to.
The back row.
Yeah, stuff like that. And
big fan.
Yeah, and the outside, for example, too. That was more just, I didn't want what was out there before. Yeah. So, I'm going to put something out there that I think is going to be more useful.
Totally.
And that's also, we made that space more useful, right? Sure. And that was an overall value add because we made it into something it wasn't before, right? But, yeah, we could paint, we could toss in equipment. But at the end of the day, that stuff to me, people will get bored of because once they use it, they've used it. Right. And it is what it is. It's not going to change. If I can add things that are not, just I've used it once and now it's, it's not as temporary or things like that. Like you said, create that connection between people. Hey, all my friends go to this gym, so that's why I'm going to go to this gym. That's kind of what I'm going for, as opposed to just dumping a bunch of, cool new equipment in the gym and things like that, which everybody would get excited for. But yeah, creating that sense of community, creating that connection, showing up, there are groups of people that come and work out together. They have their group that they come in, and I love seeing that. It's the same people every single time and things like that. And, I want people to be comfortable and get to know each other. Yeah. And that to me is how you increase that retention.
Totally. Right? Yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many, and you probably have heard this actually, but I my siblings and stuff who come to the gym, every time they Winnie has made, they love the fact that there's a dog, a little puppy running around and greeting everybody. And it's those little things, that make the big difference for people. And I don't think, they may not realize it in the moment that it's impacting them, but, they'll remember, oh, yeah, that's the gym with Winnie, the little corgi, or what, right?
Yeah, right. And it's like adding those personal touches onto it, right? It's my gym. Like I want to add like things about my personality like into that gym, and I love that everybody loves Winnie because she gets to come. She's everywhere with me all the time. I love that I get to bring her to work and things like that. And if I get to share a little bit about who I am and have my personality be reflected through the gym.
Yeah.
I think that's like good for everyone, just because it's like it's a little bit more personable. It feels like it's more local. It feels because it's like it is a local gym. Like we're not part of a franchise anymore. We're not like we don't have a corporate over. It's me and my brother.
Yeah.
And that's it. So if we can have our personalities and the things that we like about ourselves and have a little bit of our personality shine through the gym, I think that's going to help kind of foster that community aspect as well. And that's kind of that's the approach that I'm taking to it is I'm going to do what I think is right and, in service of the members, right? As opposed to, I'm not just like, creating a playground for you guys. That's not the goal, right? Yeah. Because it definitely can be seen that way. And I'm not knocking that at all because, it is a gym at the end of the day. Like I'm providing a space for people to go and work out. So they have to have the proper stuff to go and work out. But if I can add in that kind of little extra on top, I think that's what's going to make my gym different than going to like another kind of big box kind of gym thing like that is, you see kind of the impact of that kind of personal touch throughout the gym.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you guys bought the gym, did you guys end up with, because Fitness 1440, because I was actually at a different gym closer to my house at one point. Mm-hmm. It was some like hole in the wall gym, and I was there for a few years. And then they got bought by Fitness 1440, and they tried to make that space where it was at into a gym. And I don't know if it was just management or what happened, but it ended up going through. It didn't work out. They had it for maybe 6 months, and I don't think it was pulling in the revenue they wanted. And so they closed that down and they sold it, and it's like a soccer facility now. And then they were like, hey, you can, cancel your membership, or we've got a facility over in Gilbert. Like you can just go down the road and you can go there. So I just went there. And then, they had different managers come through the place over time. So was Fitness 1440, was it a chain, and then they've just sold all the rights off? Did they just sell that gym? How did that work out?
Yeah, so Fitness, it's a franchise. I don't know how many they have now, but they have them all over the country.
Right.
And originally, the headquarters for the franchise was the Gilbert gym. Yeah. That's like the flagship gym, things like that. The owner, he's a good Alberta boy. Moved down here. He decided, he's like, I don't want to live down here anymore. I'm sick of the heat, whatever. So they moved back up to Washington.
Was that Scott?
Yeah, Steve is his name.
Okay,
yeah,
Steve
is his name. Great guy.
Yeah.
And he was also him, and he actually, his sons came and actually worked with me for the first couple months.
Okay, yeah.
At the gym to help me get everything going. And they were awesome in the transition, everything like that. But they moved back up to he moved up to Washington.
Okay.
They've relocated the headquarters of the franchise back up to Washington. There's the 1440 in Mesa, and then there's ours.
Okay.
The two Arizona gyms, the Mesa one and the Gilbert one, they broke off from the franchise.
Gotcha.
So essentially when we bought it, they said, you're no longer part of the franchise. If you want to keep the branding, you can keep it for as long as you need to keep it. No issues there.
Right.
So we are no longer tied to the kind of the corporate side of that. And we have full autonomy to kind of do whatever we need to do. And at some point we will probably rebrand,
right.
But kind of not highest on the priority list for us right now. It's just kind of the name of the gym. So,
right.
So we broke it off from the franchise because they have them all over the place. My brother was just in one in Nashville actually like a couple months ago. He was like sending me pictures of everything and everything like that. So so we're now locally owned, independent.
Yeah.
Just that one location. And we'll eventually change the name of it and things like that, but later down the road.
Right. That's cool though that they let you break it off from the franchise, because that allows you to do a lot more. And I don't exactly know what the rules of being in the franchise would have been, but I'm sure they would have had their say on what you could do and couldn't do. So that allows for a lot more flexibility.
Totally.
I'm curious, between coaching, we talked a little bit about coaching. We talked a little bit about the gym. We've talked a lot about impact and making your impact, on people. If there was some advice you could give, your 20-year-old self, looking back now, right? Hindsight's always 20/20.
Mm-hmm.
What would that advice be? Our audience typically is more young adults and kind of that upcoming age group who's trying to figure out, what do I want to do? What's my purpose? What's my drive in life? And I think a lot of people never find that, which is sad. But I think a lot of people want to find it, and it's just not knowing how to really step out and take advantage of it. Luckily you've had great people who you're like, I gotta find my path. I can't live in, you had people who you were like, I gotta jump in. And I think that's always key. So what would your advice to your 20-year-old self be looking back?
Yeah, I think I got a couple things. I think one is to be patient, right? I think everybody is guilty of comparing themselves to other people, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but I feel like everybody tends to do it in a way that is, well, this person is ahead of me, and then you get down on yourself, right? Like, just be patient, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen instantly. Just be patient, stay the course, like, make sure you know what your goals are, right? Write down your goals. Write them, like I have them, just write them down on your bathroom mirror, wherever it is, somewhere that you can see it every single day. And just everything that you're doing, whether you're intentionally doing it or you're subconsciously doing it, I fully believe that just seeing it every day will like guide you subconsciously to what you need to do, right? But just be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. Things are going to change. Things are going to develop. Like who you are when you're 20 is totally different than who you are when I'm 28 now, when you're 28. I'm not at all the same person, right? So just acknowledging that like you're going to grow, things are going to be different. Just be patient with yourself. Give yourself a little bit of grace, but always know what your North Star is, right? And I think another common theme that we've had throughout this whole conversation has been surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, right? In whatever aspect it is. Like surround yourself with people that you admire certain traits about them, right? Maybe you have like a friend of yours that's like super empathetic. Maybe you have a friend of yours that's like super hardworking, that's super stubborn, determined. Like surround yourself with people that have personality traits that you want or that are more successful than you, right? Because like ultimately at the end of the day, like you just have yourself. But if you can surround yourself with people that are going to make you a better version of yourself, like you're doing the right thing. And that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. And I think that's a very underrated aspect of like, cause we've been talking about it. Like, yeah, I just have these buddies that are this, but like some of the older, people that I talk to, whether if it's an age gap thing or it's just intimidating to go up and just ask people questions about themselves or for help or things like that. Like that is super intimidating. Yeah. But like people love being asked questions, like especially successful people. What I found is they love to help other people. Yeah. And if they get a chance to like teach something to somebody, they're going to take that opportunity to do it. And it'll just make their day, right? So don't be scared to go up and just ask people for help or to ask people questions or to be like, hey, like, would you just tell me about like what made you successful, things like that. Just go up and ask people, right? Yeah. I mean, they're not like worst case, they say no. I mean, honestly, like it's not, it can be super intimidating, but there's no reason to, stunt your own development as a human being just because you're scared of going up and having a conversation with somebody, right? And it's also easy to want to surround yourself with people that, maybe you feel better than. Because it's like, sometimes it's nice to feel like kind of like the big dog, right? Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, like, is that going to be an environment where you're going to get better as a person, right? Right. Maybe not. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm not going to speak in truths, right? But there's something to be said about surrounding yourself with people that are better than you. Right. And that to me is a key for a lot of things. Like choose your friends correctly, choose the people that you surround yourself with correctly, and you're going to be okay. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think people are scared to be uncomfortable, like you're saying. But putting yourself around people who are better than you, it's uncomfortable, but it's worthwhile if you're willing to sit through it. 1,000,000%. Like anything that's worth doing is probably going to be difficult. Mm-hmm. Right? The stuff that's like easy and the things that are easy to do. What? Sorry, one sec. Sorry, not just.
Okay, then just switch to main camera, and we'll just turn this one off, and we'll just go middle frame. Does that make sense? So just pull this one back, pull that one into center, and then is it just say card full? Yeah, that's what happens when you shoot in 4K. Everything takes up space.
Yeah, that's good.
Is it good?
Yeah, this one's good.
We're running? Oh, okay. Cool. Sorry, cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good. No, I was just going to kind of say in there that the stuff that's like easy to do is not always going to be the most rewarding.
Right.
And the stuff that you're going to get the most out of and that you care the most about is probably going to be the harder things to do.
Yeah.
And once you kind of realize that, like, it's okay if you're struggling, you know, and I think when I was younger, especially, like the idea of failing, the idea of stuff being hard, the idea of struggling kind of comes back to that point that you made is like being uncomfortable is a good thing. Being uncomfortable, being under pressure is a privilege. So acknowledge that, right? You're putting yourself in an opportunity to have that pressure on yourself, right? Just take advantage of it. Like I said, it's a privilege to be able to be in a situation where you are now in charge of what's going on. You're in charge of your own life. Not a lot of people get to have that opportunity. So just realizing like it's not easy all the time. Just roll with it. Roll with the punches. You're going to come out better at the end of the day because of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I love that. Pressure is a privilege. I think people don't take advantage of it often enough. They think it's, you know, they cripple under the pressure instead of realizing it's an opportunity.
Totally. Absolutely.
So my last question for you before we wrap up is, as a fitness guy in the gym industry, what's your favorite lift? What's your strongest lift?
Oof. Favorite lift? Oh man. So I'll go back to my powerlifting days. But yeah, I'm always impartial to a good deadlift.
Yeah.
Like we did a little deadlift competition, kind of right after I took over the gym. I just view it as the ultimate test of strength. Like it's the simplest thing to do. You're just bending over and picking something off the ground. I would say that's also probably my strongest lift, which is probably why it's my favorite. But yeah, like there's something to be said about just like, it's so simple. And I think that simplicity of it just makes it like so beautiful because like, you know, you get to a point and the battle to get a deadlift up is always the hardest battle, right? And I don't know there's something about it. And it always is at powerlifting competitions. It's always the most like hype part because it's the most weight being pulled around.
Yeah.
Guys are doing crazy stuff, things like that. You get to see people just like, you know, their noses are bleeding, people are passing out, like things like that. It's crazy. And just watching just like, you know, just how simple it is like really what intrigues me about it.
Yeah.
But also like, you know, it's the most weight that you can do. So like I'm very impartial to a deadlift for sure. Yeah. That's my go-to. What's
the strongest you've pulled on that?
Ooh, let's see. Back when I was competing, my gym PR was 615.
Wow.
The most I ever pulled in a comp was 585.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're pulling some weight.
A little bit, you know. I won't say like it was good at the time for kind of what I was doing, and you know, I was happy to be able to get to powerlift and experience a little bit of that, and it was super fun. And
what got you into powerlifting?
Yeah, so I played hockey in college, and after I graduated, I had no like kind of competitive outlet.
Yeah. And
my brother at the time had started a programming company with his college roommate, and so they were writing gym programs for like all of their rugby teammates and all their buddies and things like that. And I went out and visited him kind of when he was out at school, and we went to a powerlifting meet called Boss of Bosses. Okay. So it's at this gym in Northern California called Boss Barbell Club. It's owned by a guy named Dan Green, who is he's a Instagram kind of famous powerlifter. Dude's an absolute freak. But so they had this competition, and it was like John Hack, like Herbie the Love Bug, like all these crazy powerlifters, like all the super strong people on the internet were all there competing. And I saw that, and I go, that looks like a ton of fun. Yeah. I think I kind of want to do that. Like let's do that. So my brother was like, all right, we'll write you up a powerlifting program. And it was kind of from there. And the gym, I was living up in Seattle at the time. The gym that I worked out at was, for whatever reason, just was like all the people that were in there were powerlifters. Yeah. And I kind of saw them doing it. I kind of saw that meet. And I just decided like, hey, like I want to be a part of this and kind of get into it. And I think that's kind of where I really fell in love with the gym. Yeah. Was like that community specifically that I had up in Seattle. excuse me.
Oh, you're
The
good.
gym up there was called Rain City Fitness. I met some awesome people up there. It was a really good community of people up there, and that's kind of where I really found like, okay, a gym can also not just be a gym.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we would have parties, we would do stuff at the gym. Like it was super fun, right? And
That community is like a different breed.
it's a completely whole other group of.
Because we got a few at Fitness 4040, and
there's
they're
only a couple.
They like hang out together. They get to their spot. They're camping on the spot because everyone's taking their time.
It becomes a social activity very fast. Like there were times where I'd be in the gym for like 2.5, 3 hours, and I'd be like, I'm only halfway through my workout. Like I'll just come back and try again tomorrow. It just turned into like total social hour.
Yeah.
But that was like what I really loved about it. And the community in powerlifting, like it's a great group of people. Like the meets are awesome because everybody is like just there is so encouraging because.
Yeah.
You think that you could get into a competition setting like that, and people would be like all like intense and like kind of pissed off at each other and like whatever, and that was not the experience that I had. Even at like some of these, like I competed at an international meet once, and like everybody like this is like, hey, this is the top of the where we're at, and everybody was there, just like everybody gets so excited for each other, like behind, in the warm-up area, everybody's pumping each other up, everybody's helping each other out, things like that. It was such a good experience and such a good community of people. I was very, very lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
What's the craziest weight you've seen pulled?
Pulled? Oh, man. Well,
in person.
Recently, even at our deadlift competition, we had a guy so we did a deadlift competition in May at the gym. We had a guy pull 740 on that, and then like the bar bent so much that the clips popped off and the plates were flying all over the place. I'm trying to think. I've seen 800 pulled in person at that Boss of Bosses meet. I mean, watching that in person is like, it's completely ridiculous. Yeah. I've seen 1,000-pound squat in person before as well. I mean, seeing somebody like unrack that weight on their back, you're like, that's half a ton.
Yeah.
What's actually going on right now? Like, it's actually crazy to see. Just like people are insane. With that kind of stuff. It's just kind of like one of those things, and it's the ultimate like big fish kind of conversation where like you go into a powerlifting gym, like there's always going to be some guy in there that's just going to do something freaky, right? There's always like one guy in there. But yeah, it was a really good community. It was a really good experience. But that's what really caused me to kind of get into the gym. Kind of that competition, that community of it.
Dang. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, there's a. Yeah, I've never done powerlifting. I'm not sure I got the frame for it, but I was at the what's it called, the cable pull down the other day, and there was some guy in there. He was moving some weight, and it was coming down on the thing, and like everybody in the gym was like looking back and turning around, but yeah, it's cool when people can pull that much and they start moving weight, and they're always like the biggest, burliest guys, but they're usually the nicest one too. They're never like mean people.
Totally. Yeah, the biggest guy is always the nicest guy. That's always how it works out, right? Yeah.
Did you ever do the sniffing salts?
Oh yeah, hammer those ammonia tablets. So the powerlifting ones, they have the. Like, so you've obviously seen like kind of the crack ones, like when we were playing hockey, we used to kind of you've seen the kind of the clips, like like right before we go out on the ice, do whatever. The stuff that these powerlifter guys use, so it comes in like a plastic container, and it's like the crystals at the bottom. I've never experienced anything like it. It's absolutely crazy. Like you take it and it just like. Boom, like it just feels like your head's gonna explode. And it's like, okay, the little crack ones were probably more than adequate, but this stuff, they're sticking their nose in it. And it's just like some of these guys have like these giant jugs, and it's just crazy. That stuff's so strong. It's so strong.
I know. I've like looked on Amazon and stuff. I'm like tempted to buy one just to try it out, but then I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if my brain could take it.
The first time you'll start crying for sure, but no, it's just kind of like, again, one of those things. It's like super funny where he's sitting there just like in the bottle, like whatever. It's super funny.
Hyping it up, slapping the backs.
Oh yeah. There were guys, like we had a couple guys in our gym that like they're like, you got to full on just like slap me before we go out and things like that. And I'm like I'm just hanging out, guys. Like we're just here to lift weights. Like it's gonna be okay. But it's good to see like people like who really love it like that. Like they're so into it, and it's just super cool to watch like how intense people get about it.
What position did you play in hockey? Did you get it? Did you get into any beatdowns, fights?
No fights. So we played with cages in college. Okay. So we're not going to be dropping the gloves or anything like that.
Darn.
Yeah, unfortunately, but I was a defenseman.
Okay.
So I played defense in college. That's pretty much the position that I played my whole life. Yeah, and then did that all the way through. No fights. Still have all my teeth, luckily.
There you go.
So we're doing okay. We're doing okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Do they try to monitor that a lot more in the lower levels of hockey?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So now, like, essentially, the rules are totally geared towards like limiting kind of the physical play now.
Okay.
Especially for the younger kids, like there's suspensions or things like that are kind of at play for that kind of behavior. So there are rules in place to kind of mitigate that, but we're still not telling our players to not go out and play hard and play aggressive and things like that. You know, the little 9-year-olds, get them out there, like, "Come on, get out there." You know, it's super fun.
Here's your sniff and sell kid.
Yeah, exactly. Giving the 9-year-olds smelling salts before they go out. No, but no, it's super fun. Hockey is such a great sport, and I'm happy I get the opportunity to still be a part of it.
Yeah. No, I've never played, but it seems like a fun sport, and I gotta watch a little bit more. I guess Arizona's team got moved up to Utah, so that kind of sucks. But
yeah, no Coyotes anymore.
Yeah.
But there's still ASU has a NCAA Division I team that plays at the Mullet Arena. That's really good hockey to watch.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is now. And then there's tons of good youth hockey around too. You know, the team leaving definitely impacted the youth hockey here.
Yeah.
But there's the people that are in place right now, I think are doing a really good job at trying to bridge that gap now that the NHL team is gone.
Yeah.
But it's a bummer, like, that there's no hockey, like no pro hockey here anymore. Like, I always liked being able to see, like, watch the Avs come and play a couple times a year, and just having it in the Valley, like, just adds to the development of all the players. Like, there's more funding, there's more, like, the guys are around, there's just more hockey around when the NHL teams are here. So hopefully, they get a team here back in the next few years, because it'll just up the level of the youth hockey kind of around the Valley. And like, you can kind of even see, like, I was living out in Seattle when the Kraken first moved out there, and to see how much youth hockey blew up just immediately when even when they announced that the team was coming.
Right.
Like, they started building the rink and everything. Youth hockey, just the enrollments just blew up.
Right.
Because now there's, like, the extra funding. There's, like, there's more infrastructure in place now to allow for the kind of the growth of the hockey out here. So, there's guys that play in the NHL that are from here that kind of went through the organization that I'm coaching at and things like that. So hopefully we can kind of continue to kind of develop more players and things like that, despite the fact that there's no NHL team here anymore. But it is just such a bummer.
Yeah.
It seems like we're a major city. Like, we should be able to have a sports team here, right?
I never understood why they moved it either, because I mean, yeah, it probably wasn't the most popular sport in Arizona, but I knew plenty of people who enjoyed hockey and were diehard fans. So I'm not sure what the reasoning was. I don't know if it came down to
It came down to the arena ultimately.
Was it what? Okay.
Yeah, because Glendale, like, they were playing out in Glendale, that really hurt the attendance for sure. Because, like, if the team, especially if the team's not that good, like, people aren't going to drive 45 minutes out to go play, right?
Yeah, like the Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, once in a while.
Yeah. Like, nobody wanted to drive 45 minutes out there to go watch a bad hockey team.
Right.
And then when the arena in Tempe fell through, the land deal up in Scottsdale fell through, the NHL finally stepped in and was just like, okay, we need to stabilize. I mean, because the Coyotes, it's been a disaster from the start. Like, there was no owner of the team for like 4 or 5 years. Like, the NHL was like running the team for like a period of time.
Jeez.
So it's always been a little unstable down here. So hopefully they can figure it out and create some more stability down here once they get a team back.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when we're one of the largest cities in the nation, you'd think we would have a hockey team.
Yeah,
so
you would think so.
Yeah. Dang. Well, I think we've covered everything. Did you want to plug the gym? I know we've talked a little bit about it, but plug the gym, some of the other things you're working on, or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to plug the gym. So come check out my gym. It's called Fitness 1440. It's in Gilbert, Arizona. It's 870 East Williamsfield Road. Stop by anytime. You'll probably see Winnie, my dog, there, and myself there. But yeah, stop by the gym. Come check it out and kind of see what we've been talking about here.
Awesome.
But yeah, I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on, Carter. Thanks so much.
Yeah, of course.
Well, we'll have to get you on another time as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime, man.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.